He's CEO of the Year in Lead Generation, Startup Entrepreneur of the Year in his region. Tom Happé is also a LinkedIn top voice, recognized for his expertise in digital lead generation. Through his company, Trueleads, he helps B2B companies grow by leveraging buyer intent data, AI-driven automation, and scalable lead generation strategies. Tom is passionate about driving growth and maximizing your return on investment for his clients. Welcome, Tom, to the show.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me. Excited to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Tom, please tell us first, and maybe most importantly, tell us about your personal journey. Tell us, please, about Tom, the human being, your family, your friends, your dogs, whatever.
Yeah, good question. Thank you, Mark. So I founded Trueleads 4.5 years ago in the lockdown. But before that, I was in sales. I was a sales guy. Worked in cybersecurity for 10 years. Had various different sales jobs and accelerated to a VP of sales within 10 years. But was always really keen on that process and climbing that corporate ladder. Got made redundant in lockdown, and I always had the urge within me to go and set up my own business. So I decided to do that in a global lockdown with 4 kids and responsibilities. But here we are today, and 4.5 years later with a solid business that we're now scaling. But personally, like I mentioned, got a family, got 4 young children, keen football fan, spend a lot of time with my family doing sports, etc. So really sort of grounded in that way. But yeah, looking to really build something that build a legacy for them with Trueleads and show them that anything's possible, really.
You're probably on the very right path to building true legacy. That's great. Okay, Tom, as I mentioned in my introduction, Trueleads has become a leader in B2B lead generation. And you just mentioned it, actually said that you created this during the lockdown and the challenges back then, which is really impressive. How can you do this when we are in lockdown? What were the biggest challenges that you faced while scaling the company? And tell us, please, how did you overcome this?
Yeah, so the hardest part of starting a business is execution, in terms of, for years and years I had the ideas, but realized that you need to go and do something with that idea and actually execute. And I think at a time where I needed to go and do it, in a lockdown, you find resources and you find ways of doing things that you perhaps didn't have before. So execution is key, and the ideas are nothing without the execution. Secondly to that is obviously trying to bootstrap a business and grow it from scratch with limited resource requires an immense amount of focus in terms of the areas that you want to prioritize. You can't do it all, and you have to learn that really quickly. You obviously want to sell, but you need to retain the customers. You want to build the systems internally, but you also want to do marketing. But you sort of need to pick your battles at certain points in the growth of the business and make sure you're aligning resource strategically. And we still have that today. We want to do certain things, but we have to hold back to focus on other aspects. So I think that would be the main thing, is trying to build the business with a limited resources is the key.
Absolutely. Building a company with limited resources is very often the major challenge for creators. Tom, how do you integrate buyer intent data into your lead generation strategies? And how does that impact conversion rates?
So buyer intent data has become critical in the last few years. About 2 years ago, we needed a different approach with LinkedIn. We started our journey using things like Sales Navigator, using more persona-based data to reach out to our audience. And things have evolved so quickly. Even my time within sales, when I first started in sales, it was more about volume, but now it's flipped and it's more about quality. So the idea with buyer intent data is obviously trying to find your ideal buyers, your ideal customer quicker than your competition. So not only are you looking at the right personas, you're trying to find them where they're slightly more advanced in the buyer's journey or the sales journey. So the way that we do that is, not only do we help you analyze the data and find your ideal customers based on topics and personas, we can then segment that and build targeted campaigns going out to those individuals. If you don't do that, you have a very generalized campaigns that are running. But if you can do that, you can then align the right content to your buyers at the right time. And if you can do that, your conversion rate's going to increase massively, tenfold in some cases, because you're reaching the buyers at the point that they're ready to research the market.
Great. So, that we at the Swiss Quality Consulting, we do actually digital transformation in many ways in different capacities, among others, Dynamic 365, Business Central, and other ERPs and CRMs. In your experience, how do you see AI-driven lead generation playing a role in the company's broader digital transformation efforts?
Yeah, so I think AI and automation are becoming critical in all aspects of business. You see it all the time now, and the companies, as you're probably finding, the ones that are embracing it and trying to adopt it are the ones that are going to stay ahead of the competition. But it's developing at such a rapid pace that's quite hard to do. But the companies we're working with now, they see this as, I guess it's the entry point to all of that, because at any business, you're going to need leads, whether you're an enterprise customer, a small business, an individual consultant, you're going to need leads. So having a process that can help you automate some of that process and using AI to refine that and optimize that is critical, whatever size business you're at. And then that would lead into some of the other initiatives you may be looking at with a digital transformation. But essentially, I see as lead generation is the starting point to a lot of that work that you may be doing.
Absolutely. Would you agree with the saying that generating new leads is the lifeline of every company?
Absolutely. But also generating the right leads, because if you haven't got the capacity to follow up with the leads and do anything with them, you're sort of wasting your efforts. So it's finding the right leads that you have the capacity to go and nurture. So, and I think that's where automation can obviously really help, because we're all very busy, especially if you're a business owner, a salesperson, a marketing director. You haven't got enough time in your day to do your role. That's pretty common across most industries you work with. So to be able to automate elements of this and free up your time is critical to any success these days.
I can definitely confirm that. I can tell you our own experience at the Swiss Quality is that, frankly, we have no issue collecting data. We have no issue actually finding leads, but then finding the right lead that would probably be actually receptive is a much more difficult effort.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Tom, with your experience in scalable and measurable demand generation, what key metrics do you believe businesses should prioritize when they are assessing the success of their digital marketing efforts?
Yeah, so when you're looking at any sort of initiative around demand generation, lead generation, etc., you need to have the metrics in mind right from the start, right from the get-go. A lot of our customers, we challenge them around this. We try to work out before they try and embark on this journey is what they really want to achieve. So, for example, it may not be the quantity of leads; it may be, like we said, the quality. If you're working on big deals, you have a high ACV, you've got big targets to hit. It's the quality of the deals that you want to be getting through the door, not necessarily the quantity. And if you've only got a senior sales team, you don't want them doing, hundreds of demos a month. You want them doing 10 quality demos or conversations. So we look at all those sort of things when we work with our customers. So it's not necessarily around the volume of leads, but sort of the quality that we can provide. And then that all links into their conversion rates, into their average deal value. So we do quite a bit of research at the start of the process to understand that. I think the main ones are, especially when you're using LinkedIn as a primary source of leads, is looking at things like your total addressable market, so how many people you've got in your market to reach out to. On a monthly basis, how many of those can you actually reach out to using LinkedIn or other methods? Because there are limits to that. The obvious one on LinkedIn is your connection rate, in terms of how many people out of those contacts are going to connect with you. And then once you have that connection, how many of those are going to progress into a conversation and a deal or an opportunity off the end of that. So So the long answer is, yeah, lots of different metrics you look at, but we try and make it bespoke as possible for each client because they're all got different metrics and things that they're aiming towards, essentially.
Absolutely. I can confirm what you're saying. One little story, if you allow me, we were recently contacted by a company that made a proposal to help us generate leads. And their offer was 1000% more than other offers we have received. And when we discussed this with them, their answer was exactly what you were saying. It's really the quality of the lead. We are pretty sure that every lead we will give you will lead to a discussion and probably a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's as a sales professional, that's what you want. You want to be working with the leads that you are worth putting your effort into, right? So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it was absolutely clear for us that there is no way we can actually have meetings with everybody that we collected or with every single lead that we generated.
yeah. Yeah,
Great.
it's more like client acquisition costs, isn't it? It's like how much time are they going to spend
Yes.
demo after demo and call? You want to make sure they're quality, and then you've got the right people doing the calls at the end of it to have the best chance of success. So all
Yeah.
those factors lead to it. If you create the great leads, but then you've got, one of your average sales guys following up with it, that's going to affect your conversion rate as well. So there's so many factors that lead into that. But ultimately, we really try really hard to track the success of the overall outcome, because if if you can demonstrate success, then the ROI is off the scale because you've helped them achieve their goals, and that's essentially what Trueleads is about, is trying to help you achieve your goals as a company.
Great. Great. You mentioned a bit earlier automation, and I would like to go to back if you allow me. Automation is a very hot topic now in digital marketing almost everywhere. Everybody wants to automate as much as possible. This became really a very, very big hype when we realized that a lot of workers were not allowed to go to their factories, were not allowed to go to their companies and push those buttons that usually they pushed. And since then, to this day, it's still actually a very big trend. In your experience, what are the most common misconceptions about automating lead generation processes?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And we still get this one all the time, but I think the biggest misconception is that it's a set and forget sort of solution to your problems. You buy some level of automation and you can sit back and everything's going to happen for you. To the extent that people are expecting not just leads but deals closed and opportunities created off the back of it. But it does require automation does require human interaction, and it needs its human interaction to be successful. No matter how much AI you have, and automation and campaigns and data, and we've got all the tools that are needed to make it successful, but the human element is still critical to this, and it still will be in the future, I believe. So that's the biggest misconception for me.
That's getting more and more interesting for me, Tom. When you start speaking about human creativity and AI and automation and how we can combine those together to create something that's ethical and that's also helpful for the human being, you're getting me excited. How do
Yeah.
you manage this balance between creativity and AI automation when you sit with your colleagues and you guys are designing campaigns for Trueleads?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time talking and researching this. So for me, the way I look at this and the way I used to use this, when I was a sales rep, was try and look at your day-to-day tasks, and the ones that you can automate, try and automate that as quickly as possible, because that's going to free up your time to do the more creative aspects of that. So for me, I'd rather free up my time to be doing things like this, speaking to you, doing content, speaking to my customers, than sitting on LinkedIn, sending messages and following up with conversations. So it's trying to work out where your priorities need to be. And then second to that, making sure that any automation you do set up, you have a process around that and you're tracking the results of it. So that's critical as well. There's no point just setting up automation and letting it do this thing without a process to refine that messaging, refine that approach, and make it better over time. And that's where the human element comes in as well. But the way I see it is, the automation's there to do the heavy lifting. AI is there to help you do your research, help with your messaging, help with your approach, like add that extra layer of context for you to get really good at your job. But the human element is still the personable, relationship building element that is still needed in sales today.
Good. Great. Thank you very much for this. You're a LinkedIn top voice. And that's, for a lot of people, that's a dream because it gives you credibility and authority in this professional networking environment. Some people, sometimes when I invite them to follow our company, they tell me, no, if we follow you.
Yeah.
But actually, I would like them to follow the company because one
Yeah.
never knows what happens in the future. Tell me, from your perspective, what is your approach to building personal branding? And how has personal branding contributed to the growth of Trueleads?
So without personal branding, Trueleads wouldn't be here today. I can tell you that for sure. So the one thing I didn't realize, throughout my whole sales career was all the people that I was building relationships with, salespeople, my bosses, marketing, my colleagues, 10, 12, 15 years of sales, university, you're building your network on LinkedIn. I'm not to say I've got, tens of thousands of followers, but that was a basis to build something from. So as soon as setting up a business and you have a few thousand connections on LinkedIn already, and the people you've got yourself an audience already. So that was critical to the initial growth of Trueleads because I started putting myself out there. I started posting more content, and that resonated with my audience as well as building my connections each day. So without that, we wouldn't have a business. And even today, it's still our main source of leads. So I would highly recommend any business owner for sure, any sales professional, any marketing professional to at least start trying to build your personal brand, because I think it's going to become even more relevant in years to come. And you're totally right. You look at all the stats on the major companies, it's the founders, it's the owners, it's the people of the business that have the larger audiences and the larger followings in the company itself. And that relates to Apple's, Tesla's of the world and the larger companies. So yes, critical in today's business. So and able, how to do that. We try and help our customers all the time in doing this. I think for business owners, it is a lot easier. I think the fact that you're setting the vision of the business, you have your ideas, you need to put yourself out there. I think you have a lot more freedom and flexibility to do that. And if you've got a bit of a creative element, I think as long as you're posting regularly, you're going to resonate and you're going to grow your audience. I think when you work within a business, it's a lot more difficult. You've got the eyes of your colleagues and bosses and things that are looking at you. So it's it's a much different approach to try and build an audience when you're within a larger company. But we are finding our customers that we work with, the ones that have a voice on LinkedIn, outperforming the other guys by a mile. They're sharing posts, they're repurposing the company content, they're commenting on posts, and they're trying to build themselves a thought leader within their market. And they're the guys that have been really successful.
Thank you for sharing that, Tom. Tom, even before AI and before ChatGPT and all the other big language models, we were talking already about content saturation. There were actually some articles, some comments here, and they're talking about content saturation, saying like a lot of content actually is being repeated and repeated in different ways. Thousands of engines were created that spin an article and respin the same article 10,000 times. Now with AI, I think for a lot of people, things are getting even more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
With content saturation across the digital platforms, what strategies do you guys employ to stand out and to attract qualified leads, as you said earlier?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, absolutely. I agree with you in terms of, there's every platform you're looking at now, it's the same sort of content. It's a lot of things are being repeated, and it's really hard to stand out in a crowded market that a few years ago it probably wasn't. So absolutely key. I think one thing we do with our clients, one thing, I always look at is trying to look at the strengths of the company you're working with. So each company we work with, they all have different strengths. Some may have a really good website. Some may have a really strong thought leader within the business. We can utilize more the personal branding. Some of the vendors we work with, the larger ones, have fantastic content that isn't being shared or utilized. So I think it's really important to look at what your strengths are rather than trying to reinvent the wheel or trying to focus on something you're not so strong at. Take the elements you are really good at personally and your business and get better at it. So if you've got a really great website and it's really optimized, how can you take that data and run campaigns off of it over LinkedIn and email to target those individuals? If you've got a really really hot, LinkedIn account that's getting lots of followers and lots of likes and you're growing your audience and you can replicate that and build something off of that, utilize that. If you've got really good data within your CRM that, ex-customers and contracts you've worked with, and you've already got data you need to reach out to, utilize that. So I think it's essential to build a strategy around the specific company we're working with and try and help you stand out in the market. But for us also internally, it's about quality rather than quantity. We would rather do a quarterly webinar that's really well engaged, really well thought out with some really high quality guest speakers than do one every week that's of poor quality that nobody's going to watch. So I think it's quality over quantity we're looking at.
Great. Tom, what do you think will be the next big trend in AI and lead generation?
So it's something we've been looking at for a while, and obviously you mentioned automation before. The limitation with automation is the sort of lack of personalization. It takes you to a point and it does the heavy lifting, but the main downside of it is sometimes it doesn't come across as authentic or personable. But obviously now with AI, that is possible. It's possible to personalize your outreach and have individual AI created messages, content that's going out to not just your ICP, but to individuals. So I think that's the major shift, and it's something we've built already internally, but we're going to look to enhance. But it would be, using AI to personalize at scale effectively, I think would be the main one for us in the lead generation market.
Great. Thank you for sharing this. Tom, how do you measure and how do you manage ROI for your clients, especially when you are using AI powered tools?
The main drivers for us are working with the customers on their, working closely with their channel managers, with their sales directors, and trying to understand what their sales process is. If we can align with that and generate the right amount of leads at the right contract value, and then we convert those leads, the ROI becomes, really positive pretty quickly. So we look at, the number of leads, but we're looking more at the converted leads. That's the most important thing, and then the average contact value of those deals that we convert. So if we can get those metrics right and we can track those regularly with the help of the sales leads we're working with, we can very quickly build out a business case. And we're doing this at the moment with a number of companies where they may start with a number of users using our platform. They suddenly start to see results from 1 or 2 users. And then it's a simple calculation of how, if we put this, 10x's and we roll this out to 10 sales guys or 20 sales guys, what would that conversion rate and ROI look like? So once we can prove that on a handful of users, we can, multiply that throughout the business.
Often when you talk to small or medium enterprises about something like, for example, data-driven lead generation, they tell you, yeah, but that requires budget that we cannot afford. This is for big companies. This is for large corporations. What do you say to this?
Well, I'd say we've got customers in all different sizes. We started with smaller customers, and we still have a small, medium, and very large enterprises. But to me, it's the same approach with all of them, really. Yes, the larger customers may have more data. They may have, internal resources. They may have, larger budgets to spend on these things. But it's the same process you're working on here. It's identifying your target audience, being really clear and concise on who you want to target. It's having a really compelling value proposition. And it's amazing, even the larger companies are probably less clear on what their value is, that they're in very saturated markets and they can't really pinpoint where the value is. Yes, they have great solutions, highly funded AI tools and processes, especially when I was in the cybersecurity market. But it's amazing how many of their sales teams don't really understand the value proposition they're reaching out to. And then the third piece is, the messaging and the approach and the personalization. So whether you're a large company or small company, you can still do that. You just have different tools at different stages. So if you're a small business, for example, you could utilize your LinkedIn account. You can use Sales Navigator, which is not a huge cost, to build out a really nice targeted list of prospects. And you could use some form of AI to write a really compelling script or outreach program for them and get that running pretty quickly. If you're a larger enterprise, you can enhance that with, maybe more accurate data, maybe start using intent data. You could do that at scale with more people using LinkedIn and email, etc. And then you could probably, work with the marketing team to have, more bespoke and, better content to run through that. But it's the same approach, whatever company size you're looking at.
Okay, that's great. Tom, Trueleads now is global. It's not located in the UK, it's global. What unique challenges have you faced with international clients or with going to outside markets? Talk to me, please, about this cognitive process, this work that you went through when you were about to decide, do we go international or do we stay in the UK?
Yeah, so UK was primarily our focus quite early on. We had a lot of customers quite off the outset in the UK. A lot of those companies I worked with, especially as I mentioned in the cybersecurity industry, were headquartered in the US. So we very quickly had to start looking at the US market, which has been great for us. But that's very quickly, sort of manifested and built now to multiple countries around the globe. And the main aspect is just how many people are utilizing LinkedIn. There are countries out there that don't use LinkedIn as much as others, so we have to be cautious of that. But again, it's the same process wherever you're based. I mean, we've done quite a lot of research now into different regions and different countries, and LinkedIn outperforms. Some countries outperform others in terms of connection rates, etc. UK is actually a tougher market than the rest of the world, to be honest. But I think that's more a cultural aspect. But other than that, the complications are, maybe from a data legal standpoint, there's different regulations in different countries. So when you're looking at things like buyer intent data, you got to be aware of the different regulations in different countries, such as GDPR, etc. But if you're purely using LinkedIn, the great thing about LinkedIn is permission led. It's scalable around the globe. And once you have that connection, you have that sort of line of communication to that individual, whether they're based in the UK or in Europe or further afield. So that's why I really like LinkedIn, because you are sort of bypassing a lot of those restrictions you may have on other channels such as email or intent data, etc.
Would you recommend to people who are looking for a job to work on improving their LinkedIn profile?
100%. I'd recommend anybody in a professional environment to improve their LinkedIn account. And again, AI can help. We got a partner now. We there's AI can help you refine your LinkedIn account, but I would get it optimized, especially if you're looking for a job, for sure.
That's great. Enterprise sales, Tom, often require long sales cycles. Some salespeople tell me I need at least 6 months to be able to close a big deal, a significant deal, and maybe a year for very, very big deals. How do you keep engagement high and prevent leads from going cold in such very lengthy processes?
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest challenges we have, actually, to be fair. So I think when you're working with shorter deal cycles, it's very easy. That ROI calculation becomes, happens very quickly, because if they start closing deals off of it, it's great. You got some momentum. But we've had many occasions where we've worked with a client for 6 months. We've got them some of these early funnel leads and conversations, but they may have not closed it for 12 months or so. So at that point, you're under a little bit of pressure from management, etc., to start justifying ROI without those results. But one of the examples I always come back to is, 2 or 3 of the largest deals I ever closed within enterprise sales came from webinar downloads, or white paper downloads, very, very early funnel. But I called those individuals, build a bit of a rapport, a bit of a relationship, got into the procurement process really early on in terms of the RFP process, and helped shape that. It took 12 months to close it, but I was one of the first vendors that was involved in that conversation, and we could help actually shape the RFP and the requirements for that, because we're in there early. So if we can start to educate our customers on that process, in 12 months' time, you'll be miles ahead of your competition. But I understand now with budgets and restraints and the pressure on people to perform early on, sometimes it's very hard to do that. So it's a constant balancing act, but the companies that really embrace this over long term get the best results for sure.
Absolutely. Tom, I'm really, really trying to select what questions to ask you because we have not a lot of time, but I really want to get some of your insights on this. And I'm absolutely sure that the people who are following this broadcast also would be very keen on that. Last question: what advice would you give to startups looking to scale quickly in the high competitive B2B space?
So we work with quite a lot of startups, and I think that the main is similar to your very first question is they don't necessarily have the time, resource, money to go and do anything too fancy at this stage. So I would highly recommend that you start with LinkedIn for sure before you do anything else. Like you said, optimize your LinkedIn profile. Start to identify your target audience very quickly. Just spend half a day and really work out who you want to target, who your ICP is, and then reach out to them and don't sell to them, but build your network with these individuals. Don't sell, just get to know them, build your connections, and then start posting, start building your personal brand and engaging with these guys, asking what the challenges are, getting interested around what they're doing, what their roles are, and opportunities will naturally come off the back of that just from doing that one thing. And then over time, you can improve that. You can improve your content, you can improve your messaging, you can improve your data, but you need to get started with that. And I think I look at other channels, other social media channels, other ways of doing this. The options are you could do cold calling, you could do email, you can do other social channels, but LinkedIn will outperform all of those if you get it right. So I'd start with that.
Thank you very, very, very much. We really, really appreciate the time you have granted us today.
No problem.
Thank you very much, Tom. Wish you an excellent, excellent day. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, mate. Cheers.